symptoms of seizing up on me, and I didn't know why, both legs. And I thought, oh, it's all right to stay. I can go to Sainsbury's. Now, my local Sainsbury's in Victoria is the old bus station. It's got a wonderful car park underneath where you can park. And I thought, fantastic. And so I could drive home, so I didn't have to walk to Sainsbury's. It was just perfect. So I did all my shopping, and by the time I got to the big shop for the weekend and so on, by the time I got to the charger, I mean, I was literally walking like a zombie. And I knew that my legs had seized up and I couldn't really walk. And I said to the woman, is there any way I can get help with one of the men there to help me down to the car? Oh, yes, she said. So she rang the bell and the little man came along and we got talking. And we're still friends and we always say hello and wave.
Maggie, lubrication, that's
what, darling?
Lubrication.
Oh, lubrication. Well, I mean, darling, they weren't giving me anything at that time. And it was just, don't worry, I've had problems with my surgery where they wouldn't give me the pain, they'd forgotten to give me the painkillers time and time again, and then Boots would send them to me and so on. So then, when I'd paid for my shopping and everything, she said, here he is. This little man came along, and his name was Magnus. I said, oh, that's so kind of you. He said, nothing at all. He said, and he brought a wheelchair. I said, oh, that's just perfect. So he wheeled me back to the car, and then he went back and brought all the shopping down, and that was fine, and he packed it into the boot and everything. So, and we tried to get into the car, and he could barely get me in, so I could sort of get my bottom in, and the two legs were left out. So he had to lift up one leg, and the other leg in. Now, because I was driving with the two legs straight, it was very easy for me to drive, you see, because I had the accelerator and the so on. And I said to my son, I've been doing something, I hope it didn't ruin the car. It won't do your car any good, Mum. Never mind, darling. That's how I was driving home. I was using the handbrake. Very, very slowly. It's only a 3-minute run. I'm almost next door to the Sainsbury's. So we get home, and when I open the door, I try to lift this leg to get out, and I can't get out at all. So I think, oh dear God, what do I do? So I'm looking at the people walking past and think, he's no good, she's no good. And I lift the other leg and think, that's useless. And I see a young man passing, about 28, 30, and I think, perfect. Tall, thin, nice. And I said, excuse me, I said, I'm telling a terrible story. My leg is seized up and I can't get out of the car. Oh, no, he said, no problem at all. So he said, can you turn around? And I said, I can do that bit. So he said, let me pull your legs out. So he pulls the legs out of the car. And he said, can you stand up? And I said, yes, if I do that, you see, I can stand up and so on. And then I said to him, and he said, oh, that's perfect. So he moved away, and I said, I'm terribly sorry. Now, my door is about as far as that over the pavement, with 6 steps up. And I said, look, I'm terribly sorry. I don't think I can get over the pavement. Not to worry, he said, let me help you out. So he helps me out, and he stands up, he locks the car. And I said, don't worry about the shopping, because I can get that tomorrow. Not to worry, it's the night, and so on. Helps me up this, helps me there to the steps. And he said, there we are. You've got 6 steps to walk up, and that's all right, I'll help you. And I said, I can't lift my leg up. I'd literally seized up my body, you see. And he said, oh dear. And he said, I hate to ask you this, would you mind if I carried you up? And I said, not at all. Not at all. No, not at all. So he carries me up the front steps. And I've got my thing to let me into the hall. We get into the hall, and I said, come up to the flat, please, and help me in. So we go up to my flat, 3rd floor, we get in the front door, and we sit down, and I say, do you want a drink of wine? No, and we have a little chat, and he said, that's perfect. He said, you don't weigh much, do you? And I said, no, just over. Well, I weigh 7.5 now, but I've lost weight.
Did you know that guy?
What?
Did you know that?
I was weighing just under 8 at the time, but I said, no, that's wonderful. I got his name and address, and he said, you see, I'm an actor. I said, perfect. I said, I was in the theatre. Now I said, when you go for your next film, you tell them you're an expert. And I said, being in hospitals and looking after patients, because I said, this is very important. Put this in your mind because it will be there for when you're an actor. And he said, that's right. And I said, because this is how actors learn. And he said, oh, that's perfect. He said, it's so wonderful. I've got a new part coming up. I think I can use that. And I said, because this is really important in our lives, that actors have to know how you behave and so on.
Reality. Yeah.
What, darling?
Reality.
Oh, absolutely reality. So we did all that and we talked, and he was absolutely sweet. And he only lived at the bottom of the street and so on and so forth. And I've seen him a few times on the road and we've said hello and so on. And then he sort of left. But now I suddenly realised half an hour later I couldn't get out of the chair. But that's another story. That's another story. It took me an hour to walk down the hall to the bathroom. And then eventually I rang the emergency number of the NHS and they sent a doctor. Sister, actually see me at home. He was absolutely gorgeous, a young man, absolutely gorgeous, and said, I know exactly what's wrong with you. He said, because I've had this with other patients who have got rheumatism and so on, because it does seize up and so on. But I just love this young man. Do you mind if I carry you up the front step?
Oh.
What, darling?